Today we've got the Nike LeBron 20 going up against the Nike Zoom Freak 4. Which shoe is better? Let's find out. Welcome back to our channel. Today we are checking out the newest shoes to release in LeBron and Giannis' signature lines with Nike. But before I get into the performance side, I'll go ahead and hit on some of the basic info for both of these shoes first. So we do have a pretty decent price cap today. The LeBron 20 retails for $200, which is the same as actually his previous two models, but that's still going to make them the most expensive shoe line out there with Nike by far. But he is also the only active player that's even close to touching 20 models right now, so that is going to be part of the reason why. But as for the Zoom Freak 4, those are going to retail for $130. That's kind of all the way on the opposite side of the scale, being Nike's second cheapest signature line right now, but they did get a $10 price increase from last year's model. I think PG's line is like the only shoe that's going to be cheaper than this Zoom Freak line now, but I'm going to go ahead and touch on the appearance for both of these shoes really quick. So starting off with the LeBron 20s, I mean, these straight up do not look like a LeBron 20 shoe at all, or a shoe that's in LeBron's line at all. Like whenever I dropped my first impressions on these, because I actually got access to them early, like a lot of people were shocked that this was even like, that this wasn't some Kobe or like, you know, Air Zoom GT model. Like pretty much nothing from the appearance of like any of his former shoes from his line even carry over to the shoe at all. But I love the fresh look on these. The overlapping Nike swoosh on the upper is like super sweet. It kind of reminds me of like Virgil's Off-White collabs, the way like, you know, the Nike swoosh just doesn't stay attached to the back of the shoe, just kind of runs straight off the model. And then as for the tongue, you're going to see like LeBron's signature kind of lightly etched on there. And then at the bottom of the lacing setup is going to be two Roman numeral X's. That just kind of stands for the 20th model in his line. It's also going to show up on a little yellow patch on the heel too with that LJ Crown logo. So definitely an all new look to LeBron's line, but I mean, I'm definitely feeling it. But now going ahead, switching it over to look at the Zoom Freak 4s. Aside from this year's model losing the strap, I really love a lot of what Nike did just for this shoe. I mean, the reverse swoosh that's running up the side of the upper, it looks super tough. Like they made it much bigger on this year's model compared to what they did on last year's Zoom Freak 3. And that reverse swoosh is actually now shown up on 3 of his 4 lines, or like 3 of his 4 shoes from Giannis' line so far. And Nike even put like in the description for this year's shoe that reverse swoosh is like a signature of the Zoom Freak line. So that probably means we will see it more going forward. And honestly, I'm down for that. I think it looks really cool. But as for the rest of the model, you're just going to see a mismatching tongue setup on these with his player logo on one shoe, and then the compass is going to be on the other. And then along the heel is going to be some freak text kind of up around the collar. And these shoes do have some like ridges in the midsole. They look pretty cool, but they actually have a functional purpose that I'm about to touch on here in just a second. But I mean, 2 pretty clean looking models here for sure. I'm definitely rocking with both. But now let's see how these shoes hold up on the So now looking at more of the materials and the performance side, and starting off with the cushioning, I'll just go ahead and give you the cushioning setup that each model is working with first. So as for the LeBron 20, these actually did something pretty unique that I haven't really seen before. So inside of the shoebox is going to be this little card, and this like breaks down everything that's being used within this shoe. As for like cushioning, like they kind of just lay it all out there for you. So I'll just kind of read that off to you really quick. So on top, you're going to have some Cushlon foam, and we see a lot of that in LeBron shoes. And then underneath that is going to be an Air Zoom unit that looks like it's going to be in the forefoot and in the heel for this model. And then you're also going to have a carbon fiber midfoot shank just to help keep the model intact. You're also going to get a lateral guardrail. Like, I mean, LeBron's line, they just never short you on the cushioning features, as you can see. And then as for the Zoom Freak 4s, these use a lightweight midsole that is hollowed out under the forefoot. And that's where you have 2 Zoom Air units are going to be positioned at in that spot. That allows for the Zoom Air units to compress under the weight and then be able to expand to help return energy to your foot. But honestly, you know, not much changed from the Zoom Freak 3s last year to this year's Zoom Freak 4 model, just for like how it was put together. And pretty much just like the product details like tell you, the bulk of the cushioning is going to be featured in the front half of that shoe, which is not at all similar to the LeBron 20, which is going to give you much more of a balanced feel. And I mean, Giannis's line, it has kind of been stuck in that okay spot whenever it comes to comfort. Like at least for these last 2 models, they play pretty much the exact same. And the forefoot isn't bad. The heel just isn't super padded. And I thought they might play around with the new setup this year, and you know, clearly they didn't. So I feel that's probably going to be coming next year on the Zoom Freak 5s. But like I was saying, I mean, cushioning for LeBron's signature line, it pretty much always delivers. Nike loads a bunch of just like different materials into his shoes to help enhance the comfort, and you can really feel that on this model. Like the collar is super padded. It's like almost an inch thick, so like, you know, the surrounding parts of your foot, it's going to feel really good there. But like the cushioning underneath your foot is going to be really soft too. And usually you'll see like, you know, what's being used, like such as Air Zoom, Air Max, something like that will be labeled on the shoe. That's not going to happen with these, which is probably why they threw, you know, that little card in there to kind of help you out, just give you a better idea of what's going on. And then using our durometer to check out how the midsole feels, I was kind of surprised to see the LeBron 20 being a little bit more firm, reading at a 39.5. And that's still not bad, but it is a little bit bit more stiff than the Zoom Freak 4, which came back as a 36. Pretty minimal on the difference there, though. I mean, I'm not going to call the Zoom Freak 4. They aren't uncomfortable or anything like that. They just aren't really on the same level as the LeBron 20 whenever it comes to cushioning. For the materials and the support, we'll kind of start off talking about the LeBron 20s first. And like I said in the appearance section, these do not look remotely like a LeBron shoe. And the LeBron 19 just had a lot going on for this materials section. Like they had a full-length inner sleeve, some overlays, flywire cables. It's a little bit different than what the LeBron 20 is going to be working with this year. Like the upper is going to have more of like a knit or like a mesh feel that is noticeably more thin. Like last year's model had multiple layers built into that shoe. That's one thing that made them so heavy, and I didn't love that. But with all those extra materials that didn't show up on this model to hurt the weight, that also means that they aren't going to be there to necessarily help with the support. Like I was looking for some additional support features just to help eliminate some movement, especially with this being a lighter shoe than what normally comes out of LeBron's line. And to be honest with you, you're not going to find a ton on this shoe. Like the LeBron 20, it's not going to have an outrigger. There's no midfoot band, no overlays for the laces to feed through, like all that stuff that was on last year's model. I do feel a little bit of give to the upper whenever I'm making those harder cuts, but it's not terrible. Like these still have a more secure feel than the LeBron 18s from a few years back, I would say. And I wouldn't call the support great on these, at least not compared to having all of those layers and like pieces that were on the 19s. But as of right now, I haven't had any major issues with it. But now switching it over to look at the Zoom Freak 4s, the biggest change that came to this year's model whenever you're talking about like the materials is that they lost that strap. But aside from that, these do have a really similar build to the Zoom Freak 3s. It's just set up a little bit different. So the toe area is going to be pretty thin where that textile is. You're going to see it in the white, but that's not nearly as thin as like that green section is in the middle of the upper. I mean, that spot is literally transparent, so you don't have to worry about, you know, getting air to your foot or anything like that. But around the back half of the shoe, you're going to get more of a filled in design. And even with the Zoom Freak 4s losing the strap, there are still multiple nice support features on this shoe. Like these are going to have the same outrigger that was there on the Zoom Freak 3s. That kind of extends out from the shoe, like in the front half where you see that green air pocket kind of exposed in the midsole. And that's just there to give you better balance and also kind of help brace your foot and just like, you know, for those tougher movements. And you're also going to see a black overlay running across the toes, but the big Nike swoosh, like that reverse swoosh on the upper, is where the bulk of the help is going to come from. Like that extends onto the upper and just really helps keep your foot from trying to slide out to the side. And these have a really nice heel counter to go along with it. And even with all those features, the Zoom Freak 4 actually stays the lighter model today, weighing 382 grams for a size 10.5. That is definitely on the lighter side of the scale for basketball shoes. And the LeBron 20 is going to weigh a little bit above that, showing a 434 grams for the same size. And that is down nearly 200 grams though from the LeBron 19. So like, I mean, I guess that's what happens whenever you strip all that extra stuff off of the shoe. But that definitely didn't help with the support on the LeBron 20. So kind of give and take on that model. To finish off with traction, I'll actually switch it up and start with the Zoom Freak 4s. So these went with a computer-generated outsole that is meant to give you multi-directional traction pattern that resembles a topographical map. And the whole purpose of this traction pattern is just to help optimize ground contact and give you better change of direction opportunities. And between the cushion and the traction, those are two categories that I haven't been overly impressed with Giannis's shoes so far. Like, I mean, these are all right. They're consistent for the most part, but they aren't great. I'll just put it that way. But now switching it over to look at the LeBron 20s, traction actually has not really been a strong point for LeBron's shoe line over the last few models. Like I didn't love the 18s or the 19s, but Nike finally put the pieces together on this shoe. The LeBron 20 is still going to get your typical random traction pattern that does show up in a lot of his shoes on his line, but these have some type of different rubber compound from what they've been using because they are just sticky. Like I've loved the way they've been gripping the court. These have some bite on the floor that just hasn't been there on any other model that I've played in from LeBron's line. But to finish off with sizing, the length is going to be good on both. Like you get a little less than the thumb's width left over. The LeBron 20 is maybe a little bit more snug for the length than the Zoom Freak 4. And as for the width, I'd probably say you have some extra room on the Zoom Freak 4. You can tell just from looking at them, like you have a wider surface area in the forefoot, so that is going to allow for a little extra space. So for the final ratings and starting off with the appearance, I really do like the look for both of these shoes. The Zoom Freak 4's got that reverse swoosh on there that always hits for me. And then the LeBron 20, I love the new look that they gave to his line. I'm going to start off going with the tie. But as for the cushioning, I mean, both of these models, you got two different types of setups. Front loaded over here in the Zoom Freak 4s, more balanced in the LeBron 20s, but these just give you an overall softer feel, so I'm going to go with the LeBron 20 there. As for the materials, I mean, the LeBron 20 is the more expensive shoe, but both of these models, I mean, neither one of them is going to feel cheap. Like it's a lighter shoe for the Zoom Freak 4, and I really do love that. I'm just going to keep this section as a tie. But as for the support, I mean, like I said, you don't have all of those support features that showed up on the LeBron 20 model that was there on the 19s, but the Zoom Freak 4s, they just give you I mean, it's just a more supportive, just a more reinforced upper upper on that model. You don't feel quite as much movement, so I'm going to go with the Zoom Freak 4 there. But to finish off with traction, that is actually going to be the LeBron 20 taking that section. And I want to say the LeBron 19s weren't winning any traction battles last year, so it is nice to see that change come to LeBron's line. So as for the better shooter hoop in, I am going to go with the Nike LeBron 20. And I really do love the changes that were made to this year's model. Like, they're releasing in a low top. I'm huge on low tops. These guys are a lot lighter. The cushion's still there. The cushion's always been soft. I'm a little bit, on edge about the support. We'll see. I haven't like struggled with it too majorly yet. But I mean, the traction's just a major upgrade that needed to come to his line. That's what I'm kind of waiting for on the Zoom Freak. I guess for Zoom Freak's line, Giannis's line in general. The Zoom Freak 4s and the 3s, the cushioning and the traction, both of them are mediocre. Hopefully they take some strides forwards there. But all things considered, still two good basketball shoes to play. Thank you guys for taking some time to watch. Feel free to drop a follow or subscribe if you liked the video. And if you're interested in buying the Nike LeBron 20 and you want to support our channel, just click the link here on screen, or we have links down below or in our bio for both shoes. So feel free to check that out. But until next review, I'm Landon from Shoewear. Peace.